Hev, and coming up in today's episode I've got a live com of the away match against Solihull Moors. But before we get into that, a little bit of a recap of the last 6 weeks or so of in-game time since you were last with me. The last live com we had was the home game against Alfreton, where we got a late Lionel Stone winner. It was kind of a common theme for this run of games where we were dominating possession, creating lots of chances, but without Dale Southwell, who's obviously got his broken ankle that we mentioned yesterday, just really struggling to get any goals, and did manage to scrape a Lionel Stone goal in this match. But the following match, away to Worcester, no such luck. Again, we absolutely dominated possession, created a lot, but just couldn't score. We went with Dele Adebola and Joey Johnson up front in this match. Neither of them played particularly well, and yeah, really disappointing 0-0 draw away to Worcester. Our next match was at home to FC United. We mixed things up again with the strike partnerships, kept Dele Adebola, but brought in the young Peterborough loanee Jack Friend, who did score a goal after 17 minutes. Wasn't enough for us to pick up the win though. We conceded a goal on the half-hour mark, and then again, same old story, despite dominating possession for the rest of the match. Just couldn't find a winner. That brought us to the end of October, and the board at the end of October still very pleased with my leadership of the team, mainly because of the good performance we've got in the league, and they are still moaning about the lack of control of the wage budget, which I'm hoping the longer we go on doing quite well on the pitch, the less that's going to matter. So going into November, we started things off with an away game against North Ferriby. Went with Dele Adebola and Jack Friend up front again. Neither of them playing well, neither of them getting on the score sheet. We went 1-0 down in the first half, and Scott Garner, our captain, did manage to grab an equaliser for us on the 73rd minute. But again, just very little threat going forward, and it really is becoming a bit of a worry by this point that we're far more of a one-man team than I thought we were, and without Southwell there to score the goals, we really are struggling to find any from anywhere. Next match, continuation of the same story. It's the reason I'm recapping so many matches together, because they're all basically the same. We took the lead with Dele Adebola. Jack Friend, again, not having a great game. He scored that one goal when he first came into the side, but hasn't really been in the game at all for any of the matches he's played subsequently. And Harrogate came and equalised 15 minutes after Adebola scored, and that's how the game finished, 1-1. We then hosted Corby, who just came and battered us. We were 1-0 down at half-time, went 2-0 down early in the second half. Adebola did manage to get one back, but we never really looked like equalising. We were actually worryingly starting to drift back towards 50-50 in the possession by this point as well. We dropped Jack Friend, tried Joey Johnson up front again, but he was just as ineffective as Friend had been, and we really are struggling to find anyone capable of playing up alongside Dele Adebola. And most worrying about this game is probably our most consistent defender this season, Lionel Stone, picked up an injury, and when we got the notification after the match, we saw that he'd torn his groin muscle and is going to be out for 3 months. So he's added to the ever-growing list of quite long-term injuries that we're suffering at Boston. Not really sure what I can do about it. We're maxed out on coaches. I've actually set myself up as a fitness coach, because before the game started, I sort of focused my coaching abilities on fitness just to try and avoid this situation from happening, because I know it can be really difficult to find good fitness coaches at this level. But I don't know, do we need to bring in another physio? I'd be interested to see what you think in the chat of why we might be suffering so many injuries. Is it the style we're playing? Is it the coaching? Let me know in the comments if you've had a similar run of bad injuries and what you did about it. I would be very keen to put an end to this now, because it's getting beyond a joke. Our next match, we were away at Alfreton. Tried Adebola and Johnson up front again, but nothing really happening. And by this point, we were starting to experiment with a different formation that we switched to in the game, because the strikers are both being so ineffective. So on the 70-minute mark, I took both the strikers off, brought Owen Heather off the bench to replace them both, and brought an extra midfielder on so that we could go to sort of a 4-3-3 with Hartley and Kane Felix out wide, with Owen Heather as a lone target man forward. It worked in this match. Heather got the winner on 85 minutes. And again, it's one of those games where we dominated, didn't really threaten the goal too much, but luckily this time we did manage to pick up the win. But that plan was scuppered because straight after the match we got a notification saying that now Owen Heather has got a back strain and is out for 5 to 6 weeks. We just cannot keep strikers fit, and even the ones who are injured get injured again before they're back to fitness again. Morgan Ferrier, the guy who came into the team, scored on his debut and got injured almost straight away, he's now injured again with a bruised rib for a couple of weeks. So he was just coming back. He wasn't even back on the bench yet. Was just starting to come back to fitness before he picks up another knock. So by this point, we're down to very little option up front and kind of have to keep going with what we've got. Luckily, the next matchup was a cup match against Salford, who are a division below us, I believe, certainly below the Conference North. We were forced to go with Adebola and Johnson up front because aside from Jack Friend, who's just been a massive disappointment, they're the only two fit strikers we had. And hopefully the fact that Joey Johnson was able to pick up a couple of goals against weaker opposition might just give him a little bit of confidence to go on and carry that form through in the league. Carl Piagiani scored the other one from a corner. Adebola picked up an assist, and all in all, this was quite a good performance and a good game. The scoreline flattered Salford a little bit. We took our whole midfield off basically on the 70-minute mark. We took both the central midfielders off and actually went to a diamond with Grant Roberts playing as a holding midfield player and Jack Friend coming on to play as an advanced playmaker because we only had the one midfielder on the bench, so that kind of let them back into the game a little bit. So that gives me a mental note: don't play a diamond. Certainly not with that combination of players, but good to actually be scoring some goals from our strikers again. And that took us to the end of November. By this point, the board are now delighted with the leadership qualities I'm demonstrating, which is not bad considering I found that quite a disappointing month. We are still doing well in the league though. The wages are still a disaster, but I've kind of decided I'm ignoring that. We are making a profit each month, so we'll get through at least until the end of the season. And I guess the problem comes in the close season, where we've got to carry on paying the wages, but we don't have any gate receipts coming in. But at the moment we're making sort of £10,000-15,000 profit a month, so as long as that's continuing I'm not going to worry too much about the wage bill. And that is the league table going into today's game. So we are still top of the league despite a disappointing month. We've only won one game in the last 5, but everyone else around us is sort of in very patchy form as well. I think the most any of the top 5 teams have won out of the last 5 games is 4 from Hensford, and they weren't really anywhere in the reckoning before that run of games. So we're kind of hanging on to top spot by default, but we're clear by 4 points, which is quite nice. Telford have got 2 games in hand, but even if they won them both, that only would put them up to second. So we've played 19, won 11, drawn 6, lost 2, and we've got 39 points, approaching the halfway point of the season. And it's safe in the knowledge that Dale Southwell is actually making a remarkable recovery from his broken ankle and should hopefully be fit again within a couple of weeks. So I did mention that my plan was try and stay within touching distance of the playoffs, ready for when he's fit again. Well, it might even be that he comes back into the side with us still top of the league. So if we can avoid picking up any other injuries and keep him fit, I'm slowly starting to become a little more confident that we might be able to win this division, but I guess we'll have to see how things go. So, getting into today's match, if we just continue through, I've already picked the team, so we're going for pretty much the only team we're able to play. With Stone out injured, we are having to play Scott Garner in defence alongside Piagiani. He's been playing there since Stone got injured, which means Ben Marlow is getting a run of games in the ball-winning midfielder role alongside Kyle Dixon. Kelly Yuga is now back off his international duty. He was away for like 3 games. Took him quite a while to come in and actually make his debut, but he's now match fit and has established himself as our first choice left back with Zach Mills on right back. So that's a fairly settled back 4 now. The rest of the midfield is pretty much picking itself. Felix, Dixon and Hartley comfortably first choices in midfield. And then we are forced to go with Joey Johnson alongside Dele Adebola because he's the only guy who's fit really. Adebola's been playing really well in the absence of Southwell. You wouldn't think he was a 40-year-old. And Johnson obviously scored 2 goals in his last match. The only other striker we've got who's fit is Morgan Ferrier, who's just coming back from his latest knock. He's still not close to match fit. I could potentially put Southwell on the bench, But he's so far away from match fitness, and with it being a broken ankle and he's not even back in full training yet, just don't see the point in risking him too soon. If we were struggling to hold on to top spot, I'd perhaps risk him, but when we're 4 points clear, we could, although it wouldn't be ideal, afford to lose today's match just to make sure he doesn't get a recurrence of his injury, and hopefully bring him back in, at least on the bench next week, to get the ball rolling again on his excellent form, assuming he can keep it up. So, submit the team. The media have got us as favourites for this match. Solihull, I think, are down in the bottom half of the league, so I would like to think this should be a match that we should be able to win. So yeah, let's pick up where we left off. Not exactly where we left off, because we were kind of holding on a little bit towards the end against Salford, but the first 70 minutes of that match before we changed the formation were really encouraging. So hopefully we can carry on with that kind of form against what is, again, fairly weak opposition. So I'd like to think we have a good chance today. Ball's come clean to Marlowe here, and Johnson's running with it. Gets it out wide to Mills. Ball drops back to Hartley, who kind of just launches across from deep, but never really looked like it was going to find one of our players. Pierre Jani wins the ball back and kicks it forward to Johnson, who chases again. And Hartley's intercepted that, and if he can slot the ball through to Adebola, which he does, and Adebola hits the post, and we win a corner. So Hartley with the corner doesn't. I need to work on these corners. I've only scored one goal from corners all season. I think we need to work on our set piece instructions a little bit, because they're not really working, and I would like to add scoring some set pieces to our arsenal. So I might have to give that a little tweak at some point over the next few matches. We're being seriously overrun in midfield, apparently. I find that hard to believe when we're on 62% possession, and I know Solihull have only got a couple of players in midfield because they're playing three at the back with wing backs, so I guess we're maybe outnumbered when the wing backs are pushing on, but we're dominating possession, especially in midfield, so clearly my assistant manager doesn't know what he's talking about. Long throw from Zach Mills, ball pops free to Kane Felix, who finds Dixon, who fires it in from long range, and that is a good goal. Unbelievably, that's his first goal of the season for a player who's been playing so well in an advanced midfield role. He's created a lot of goals, but this is something I'd love to see him add to his game. And it just pops to Felix there, who finds Dixon, turns and just sticks that into the top corner. And if he can start doing that a little bit more regularly than once every half a season, we really will have a player on our hands there. Oh, and we've scored from a corner just after I'm moaning about it. I'm not really sure how that went in. That's an own goal from one of their players, from a defender, I think. Let's see this in 3D. So that is just a shambles. We didn't have anyone anywhere near that. It's kind of bounced back and forth between the goalkeeper and the player they had stood on the post. So probably still not much of an advert for us being good at set pieces, because that was just disastrous from them. We had nothing to do with that, really. Oh, now they've hit us on the break there, and that's sort of come from nowhere. It's a nice finish, but they didn't even seem to be threatening. We've given their player a lot of space there, but really, would you be expecting a Conference North player to score from there? I would probably be quite happy to encourage players at this level to shoot from that range. So I'm not sure if it's anything I need to be particularly worried about, but it was certainly a very good finish, and if he's got that in his kit bag, we might need to just keep an eye on him. I think it was the number 11 who did that, maybe. We don't want to give him the opportunity to do it again, and so they've had a little bit of a spark of life to end this half. We'll have been robbed if that happens. That is ridiculous, and that's the same player again who scored for them. This time with a header. He looks like he's some player. Might need to have a look at him, because he's just scored a really nice header and a beauty from long range. Might be worth sticking a scout report on him, and that is really disappointing, because we've dominated that half and they've just sparked to life in the last 5 minutes through a piece of individual brilliance and a nice set piece. But we definitely need to make sure we're scouting that player, because that was if that's something he can do on a regular basis, certainly wouldn't mind having him in my team. It's all gone a bit quiet. We are absolutely dominating possession. 65% possession is crazy. And we really need to find a goal, because to dominate a game to that degree and to only be drawing is not good at all. And we've given away a penalty here. We could be absolutely mugged in this match. If they score this penalty, we're somehow 3-2 down after an hour in a game we have completely controlled. And that's mad. Sometimes the luck just isn't with you. Right, we need to find a way back into this game, because even from this point, 3-2 down after an hour, I'm going to be disappointed if we don't come back and win this. I think we probably would if Southwell was in the side. And this might be a situation where perhaps I should have had him on the bench to bring him on at this point, but the players we've got are good enough to come back into this game. But again, it's just coming down to the quality of our shooting, because we've created a lot of chances, but so few have been on target. Let's bring Ferrier on. We'll move Johnson out to the target man. Ferrier's not particularly close to match fitness, but he is very well suited to that poacher position. And he's probably the player most likely of anyone we've got available to us today to just nick a goal if a chance drops on his lap. And I'm also going to bring Jack Williams on for Jack Hartley and just switch Felix over. I don't really want to put Felix onto that wing, actually. Felix is so good going forward. I'm actually going to bring Roberts on for Hartley. It's a slightly more negative change, but I don't want to waste Felix out there as the wide midfielder when he's such an effective winger and does create a lot of goals. He's even already picked up an assist today. So Ferrier does pick the ball up to Dixon, and now Johnson and Felix, and he should have really done better with that. Right, come on guys, we need to find a way back into this game. There is no justice in the world if we come away losing this match. Right, who have we got on the bench? We do need to find a way to get Williams into the game, really. I'm going to bring him on for Joey Johnson, and we're going to give this alternate formation that we've been experimenting with a little bit. We're going to give this a try. We're going to switch Williams to be a winger, because it doesn't really suit inside forward. We've been playing Owen Heather out there, who's more of a striker, so I put him on an inside forward instruction to get him coming in. And we're going to switch Ferrier to a poacher, even though I don't really like playing poachers up front on their own. Hopefully, with Dixon pushing on behind him, we might just get enough support to him to make him not get too isolated, which is always the danger of having a poacher as your lone striker. He can get too far away from the rest of the team. But needs must, we need to go and find a goal somehow. And it's not looking like coming. We're actually starting to slip a little on the possession as well. And I think the team are just stunned. They're shell-shocked, because this game was wrapped up after 40 minutes. We were dominating. We didn't look like letting them back into the game, and somehow they've found a way back in and beaten us, and that is a really disappointing result. We need Dale Southwell back in this team. Yeah, well, that's a bit of a subdued ending. If you've enjoyed the episode, make sure you pop a like on there for me. Let me know in the comments about the injuries, what you do about them, and make sure you subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on tomorrow's episode. Thanks very much for watching.